Did you know that over 40% of engine failures are directly related to problems with the cooling system? And here's the kicker. Repairing a blown head gasket or replacing an overheated engine could set you back $2,000 to $5,000 or more. But here's the good news. You don't have to become part of that statistic. With just a few simple maintenance tips, you can make sure your car's cooling system lasts for years, maybe even forever. So, if you want to keep your engine running cool and avoid costly breakdowns, stick around, because in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what you need to do to protect your car's cooling system for the long haul. Let's dive in. Number 1, flush the cooling system annually with distilled water. You see, over time, contaminants like rust particles, sediment, and debris can build up inside your radiator, water pump, and engine passages, reducing the cooling efficiency. Most people don't think about this until their car overheats, but by then, the damage could be costly. Now, you might wonder, why not just use regular tap water for flushing? The problem with tap water is that it's full of minerals like calcium and magnesium, which can leave behind scale deposits, clogging your radiator and corroding vital components. Distilled water, however, is mineral-free and gentle on the system, making it the perfect choice for a proper flush. Here's how you do it. Drain the old coolant completely from the radiator and engine block. Then, fill the system with distilled water and run the engine for about 10 to 15 minutes. This rinse helps loosen and flush out built-up contaminants. Once done, drain the system again and refill it with the proper mixture of coolant and distilled water, following your car manufacturer's recommendation. This simple, low-cost habit prevents corrosion, keeps the coolant channels open, and maximizes the lifespan of your radiator, water pump, thermostat, and hoses. Think of it as a deep cleaning session for your cooling system. Just like how you wouldn't let your sink or shower build up grime, you shouldn't let it happen inside your car. Number 2, install a coolant filter. Think of it like a coffee filter, but instead of catching coffee grounds, it traps dirt, rust, and other debris floating around in your coolant. Over time, even with regular maintenance, small particles can break loose from inside the engine block, water pump, or radiator. These particles can clog tiny coolant passages, reducing the system's ability to dissipate heat properly and causing your engine to overheat. Now, here's the good news. A simple aftermarket coolant filter can stop that from happening. These filters are installed in line with the coolant hoses, catching contaminants before they enter sensitive areas like the radiator or heater core. Once installed, they help protect your entire cooling system and can extend the life of critical components like the water pump, thermostat, and radiator by preventing blockages. The process is easier than you might think. The filter is typically installed on the return line from the engine to the radiator. You'll only need a few basic tools to cut the hose, attach the filter housing, and secure it in place. Some models even come with see-through filter housings, so you can check for trapped debris without disassembling anything. Here's the best part. Most filters have replaceable cartridges that you can swap out during routine maintenance. Number 3, use high-performance or long-life coolants. Many car owners stick to basic coolant without realizing that modern vehicles benefit greatly from advanced formulations that go beyond just keeping your engine cool. High-performance coolants contain enhanced additives designed to protect against corrosion, scale buildup, and wear on critical components like the water pump, radiator, and thermostat. And the best part? They last much longer, saving you time and effort. Why does this matter? Over time, traditional coolants break down, losing their ability to prevent corrosion and maintain optimal engine temperatures. This leaves your system vulnerable to rust and scaling inside the radiator, heater core, and engine passages, which can cause blockages and poor heat dissipation. High-performance coolants, on the other hand, are designed to handle extreme conditions, whether you're driving in freezing winters or scorching summers. They maintain consistent performance, protect aluminum and metal surfaces from corrosion, and help lubricate water pump seals. Long-life coolants, commonly used in modern vehicles, can last up to 5 to 7 years, or 150,000 miles, depending on the manufacturer. Switching to these advanced formulations means fewer coolant changes, better heat management, and lower maintenance costs in the long run. Number 4, upgrade to a heavy-duty radiator for off-road. If you're towing heavy loads, driving off-road, or simply pushing your vehicle to its limits, you might be unknowingly overloading your cooling system. The factory-installed radiator in most cars is designed for normal, everyday driving, not the extra heat that comes with towing trailers, climbing steep hills, or dealing with rough off-road terrain. That's why upgrading to a heavy-duty radiator is a smart move that can make your car's cooling system last much longer and perform under pressure. So, what makes a heavy-duty radiator different? For starters, it's built with thicker cores, larger coolant passageways, and higher capacity aluminum or copper cores. This design allows it to dissipate heat much more efficiently than a standard radiator, keeping your engine cool even when you're putting it through tough conditions. The increased cooling capacity reduces strain on key components like the water pump, thermostat, and head gasket, preventing long-term damage from overheating. Heavy-duty radiators often come with multiple cooling rows, giving them more surface area for heat transfer. They're also more resistant to wear and corrosion, meaning they'll last longer and require fewer replacements. Installation is straightforward in many cases, as aftermarket heavy-duty radiators are designed to fit directly into the same mounting points as your factory unit. Number 5. Use a water wetter additive. This little-known product is a game-changer, especially if you drive in hot climates, tow heavy loads, or push your vehicle to its limits. But what exactly does it do? Let me break it down for you. Water wetter additives work by reducing the surface tension of the coolant. Normally, coolant forms tiny bubbles or air pockets as it flows through the engine's hot surfaces, especially near the combustion chamber. These bubbles create insulating layers that block heat from properly transferring out of the engine and into the radiator. That's where the magic of water wetter comes in. It allows the coolant to maintain better contact with the hot metal surfaces, significantly improving heat transfer and lowering engine temperature. In fact, using a water wetter additive can lower engine operating temperatures by up to 10 to 20 degrees Fahrenheit in some cases, making it ideal for vehicles prone to running hot. Whether you're stuck in traffic during summer or pulling a trailer uphill, this extra cooling power can prevent overheating and extend the lifespan of your radiator, water pump, hoses, and gaskets. Applying it is easy. Simply add the recommended amount to your existing coolant mix, and you're good to go. It works with both water-based and pre-mixed coolants, so you won't have to change your entire setup. Just make sure to follow the product instruction, and if you're using a higher water concentration in your cooling system, such as for performance driving, the results will be even more noticeable. Number 6. Check and replace radiator hoses. Radiator hoses carry hot coolant between the engine and radiator, making them vital for temperature regulation. Over time, heat, pressure, and exposure to chemicals cause the rubber to degrade from the inside out. What you can't see is just as important as what you can. Hoses may feel fine on the outside, but could be deteriorating internally, leading to sudden splits or leaks that cause your engine to overheat. So how do you stay ahead of the problem? Don't just rely on a quick visual check. Perform a squeeze test every 6 months, especially near the hose clamps where pressure is the highest. If the hose feels soft, spongy, or too stiff, it's a sign that internal damage has started. Also, check for oil contamination, as oil can weaken rubber hoses quickly. For added protection, consider having the hoses pressure tested during routine maintenance. This test will reveal weak spots or micro leaks before they turn into major failures. Most manufacturers recommend replacing radiator hoses every 5 to 7 years, but if you drive in extreme conditions or put high mileage on your vehicle, it's wise to replace them sooner. When replacing hoses, always choose high-quality or OEM hoses. Cheap aftermarket hoses may seem like a good deal, but they often degrade faster and can lead to bigger problems down the road. Number 7. Clean the cooling system's overflow reservoir. Most people don't give this plastic tank much thought, but it plays a key role in maintaining proper coolant levels and ensuring your engine stays at the right temperature. Neglecting it can lead to clogs, contamination, and eventually overheating. The overflow reservoir stores excess coolant when the engine is hot and returns it to the radiator as the engine cools down. Over time, dirt, rust particles, and coolant residue can build up inside the reservoir, forming a sludge that contaminates the fresh coolant and restricts proper flow. If the reservoir is clogged or dirty, it can prevent coolant from cycling back into the system, causing low levels in the radiator and potential engine overheating. Cleaning it is easier than you think. First, make sure the engine is cool, then disconnect the hoses leading to the reservoir. Drain any leftover coolant, and inspect for any visible signs of gunk or debris. Next, clean the reservoir using a mixture of warm water and baking soda, or a mild degreaser, to break down the buildup. Rinse it thoroughly and let it dry before reattaching it and refilling with fresh coolant. While you're at it, inspect the hoses connected to the reservoir for cracks, leaks, or clogs. A faulty hose can prevent proper coolant circulation and lead to cooling system failure. Don't forget to check the reservoir cap as well. If it's cracked or the rubber seal is worn, it won't maintain the pressure needed for proper coolant flow. Number 8. Install an auxiliary cooling fan for high performance needs. If you push your car to its limits, then your factory cooling system might not be enough to keep the engine cool. That's where an auxiliary cooling fan comes in, and trust me, it could be the key to preventing overheating and costly engine repairs. This simple upgrade provides extra airflow to your radiator, keeping engine temperatures under control even during high-demand conditions. Unlike your standard cooling fan, which is designed for normal driving conditions, an auxiliary fan kicks in when your engine is under heavy load, like when you're driving up steep hills, off-roading, or pulling a trailer. It provides additional airflow through the radiator and helps your coolant dissipate heat more efficiently. The result will be a cooler, happier engine that isn't constantly on the verge of overheating. Installation is relatively simple. Most aftermarket auxiliary cooling fans are designed to be mounted in front of the radiator or condenser. They connect to your car's electrical system and can be wired to turn on automatically when the engine reaches a certain temperature or when the AC is running. For performance applications, you can even install a manual switch to activate the fan when you know you're about to push the car hard. With the extra cooling power, you'll reduce stress on critical components like the radiator, water pump, thermostat, and head gasket. Moreover, by keeping the engine temperature in check, you'll also improve overall performance and fuel efficiency. Number 9. Protect the radiator with a mesh guard. Most drivers don't realize how vulnerable the radiator is to debris, especially if you do a lot of highway driving, off-roading, or live in rural areas. Bugs, gravel, leaves, and even small rocks can get lodged in the radiator's delicate fins, restricting airflow and reducing its ability to cool the engine. Over time, this can lead to overheating, leaks, or even complete radiator failure. A mesh guard acts as a protective shield, blocking debris while still allowing adequate airflow to the radiator. Unlike stock grills that often have large gaps, a properly installed mesh guard has finer openings that prevent even small objects from penetrating the core. It's especially useful for off-road enthusiasts who encounter dirt and stones, or anyone who frequently drives at high speeds where bugs can clog up the radiator quickly. Installing one is easy and doesn't require any major modification. You can either buy a pre-cut mesh designed for your car's make and model, or purchase a universal one and trim it to size. Simply mount it behind the front grille or directly in front of the radiator, using zip ties or brackets. Make sure the guard is securely fastened to prevent movement while driving. Number 10. Inspect and clean heater core connections. Many people think the heater core is only for warming up the cabin during cold weather, but what they don't realize is that it's an integral part of the cooling system. If the heater core gets clogged or its connections corrode, it can restrict coolant flow, causing your engine to overheat and potentially lead to expensive damage. The heater core works by circulating hot coolant from the engine through a small radiator-like unit under the dashboard. Over time, debris, rust, and sediment from the cooling system can build up in the heater core or its connecting hoses, creating blockages. When this happens, coolant can't flow properly, causing inefficient heat dissipation and putting extra strain on the radiator and water pump. To avoid this, inspect the heater core connections at least once a year, especially if you drive an older vehicle or one with high mileage. Start by locating the heater hoses, usually 2 rubber hoses running from the engine firewall to the core. Look for signs of leaks, corrosion, or loose clamps. If you spot any cracks or leaks, replace the hoses immediately. To clean the system, disconnect the hoses and flush the heater core using a garden hose or specialized flushing tool to remove any trapped debris or scale. Another good practice is to use a high-quality coolant that contains anti-corrosive additives to prevent internal rust and buildup. If you notice persistent blockages or weak cabin heating, it may be time to have a professional inspect the heater core for deeper clogs. Number 11. Inspect cooling system's electrical components. One of the most overlooked parts of your car's cooling system isn't mechanical, it's electrical. The radiator fan, coolant temperature sensor, and relays play a vital role in keeping your engine from overheating. But here's the catch. If even one of these components fails, your car's cooling efficiency can drop drastically, leading to serious engine damage. Picture this. You're stuck in traffic on a hot day, the engine temperature gauge starts creeping up, and before you know it, you're on the side of the road with steam pouring out from under the hood. This is often the result of a malfunctioning radiator fan or a faulty temperature sensor. The fan is designed to kick in when your car is idling or moving slowly, ensuring that air flows through the radiator to cool the coolant. Without it, the engine can quickly overheat. To prevent this, you'll want to inspect the radiator fan regularly. Turn on the engine and let it warm up to check if the fan engages when the temperature rises. If it doesn't, you could be looking at a blown fuse, a faulty relay, or even a worn-out motor. Next up, the coolant temperature sensor. It tells the engine control unit when to activate the fan and regulate coolant flow, but when it gives inaccurate readings, it can lead to delayed responses, overheating, or inconsistent cooling. You can test it using an OBD2 scanner to check for error codes or irregular temperature readings. By keeping these electrical components in check, you're not just avoiding sudden breakdowns, you're giving your cooling system the extra edge. Number 12. Avoid overfilling or underfilling the coolant reservoir. Overfilling or underfilling the reservoir can create major problems that often go unnoticed until it's too late. Let's break it down. When you overfill the reservoir, the excess coolant has nowhere to go once the engine heats up, and the pressure buildup can force coolant out through the overflow pipe, or worse, damage components like hoses, seals, or even the radiator. On the flip side, an underfilled reservoir means your system doesn't have enough coolant to properly regulate engine temperature. As the engine heats up, this leads to overheating, air pockets in the system, and localized hotspots that can damage the head gasket, water pump, or thermostat. To avoid these issues, always check the coolant level when the engine is cool. The coolant should sit between the MIN and max marks on the reservoir. If you're constantly topping off the reservoir or seeing fluctuations in the level, it could be a sign of a leak, air in the system, or a faulty radiator cap. By maintaining the right coolant level, you're ensuring consistent pressure, proper heat transfer, and a cooling system that's built to last. Number 13. Protect the cooling system from freezing or boiling. Extreme temperatures, whether freezing cold or blazing hot, can be a silent killer for your car's cooling system. Many drivers don't realize that without the right coolant mixture, their engine is at risk of freezing in winter or boiling over in summer. Let's break down why this is crucial. When the coolant freezes, it expands, and that expansion can crack key components like the radiator, engine block, or hoses, leading to repairs that cost thousands of dollars. On the flip side, in hot weather, the coolant can boil and turn into vapor, creating air pockets that block proper heat transfer and cause the engine to overheat. The good news: preventing this is simple. Always use the correct mix of antifreeze and distilled water, usually a 50-50 ratio, but this can vary based on your vehicle and climate. If you live in an extremely cold region, a 60-40 mix with a higher antifreeze content will offer better freeze protection, while a slightly higher water content may be ideal for hot climates. Make sure to check the concentration using a hydrometer, and if necessary, adjust the mix before the seasons change. Neglecting this small step can lead to catastrophic damage, but staying ahead of it ensures your cooling system stays protected, efficient, and ready for any weather Mother Nature throws at it. Number 14. Park in the shade or use a car cover to reduce thermal stress. What if I told you that something as simple as where you park your car could make a huge difference in how long your cooling system lasts? Here's the deal: when your car sits under direct sunlight, especially during summer or in hot climates, temperatures under the hood can soar to extreme levels before you even start the engine. This is known as thermal soak, where engine components absorb and retain excess heat. As soon as you start driving, your cooling system has to work overtime to bring the engine temperature back down, putting extra strain on critical components like the radiator, water pump, hoses, and thermostat. Over time, this added stress can lead to premature wear, overheating issues, and expensive repairs. But don't worry, there's a simple fix. Whenever possible, park your car in the shade, such as under trees, in a garage, or in a covered parking lot. By doing this, You're giving your engine and cooling system a head start before you even turn the key. If shaded spots aren't available, consider using a high-quality reflective car cover. These covers are designed to block sunlight and reduce heat absorption, keeping the engine bay significantly cooler. They also protect other parts of your car, like the battery, belts, and interior electronics, from heat-related damage. This small step can help maintain stable engine temperatures, improve overall cooling efficiency, and extend the lifespan of key components. Number 15. Don't ignore warning signs of coolant contamination. Ignoring signs of coolant contamination is like ignoring a ticking time bomb under your hood. It might not explode right away, but when it does, the damage could be costly. Coolant contamination happens when foreign substances like oil, rust, or exhaust gases mix with the coolant, turning it into a sludgy, ineffective mess. But here's the thing. Many drivers don't notice the problem until the engine starts overheating, or critical components like the water pump or radiator begin to fail. One of the most common causes of coolant contamination is a failing head gasket, which allows oil or combustion gases to leak into the cooling system. This can cause the coolant to lose its heat transfer properties, leading to poor cooling performance and corrosion of internal parts. So, how do you spot the warning signs before it's too late? First, check the coolant's appearance. Healthy coolant should be brightly colored, typically green, orange, or yellow, depending on the type. If it looks milky, brown, or has oil floating on the surface, that's a red flag. Also, be aware of a sweet smell coming from the exhaust or white smoke, which could indicate coolant leaking into the combustion chamber. Frequent overheating or low coolant levels despite regular top-ups are additional warning signs. If you notice any of these symptoms, don't ignore them. Perform a coolant flush immediately and inspect for underlying issues like a leaking head gasket or cracked cylinder head. Catching the problem early can save you from costly repairs down the line, like replacing the radiator, water pump, or even the engine itself. Bonus tip: monitor your car's coolant temperature using an OBD2 scanner. This handy device is a must-have for any driver who wants to keep their engine in top shape, especially if you regularly drive in extreme conditions or have an older car prone to cooling problems. Here's how it works. Modern cars are equipped with an OBD2 port that allows you to access real-time data from the car's onboard sensors, including the coolant temperature sensor. With a simple plug-in OBD2 scanner or a Bluetooth-enabled version connected to your smartphone, you can monitor your engine's temperature as you drive, instead of waiting for the dashboard warning light to come on, by which time the damage could already be done. You'll get live updates and early warnings if the temperature starts to rise beyond normal levels. Why is this important? Engines are designed to operate within a specific temperature range, typically between 190 degrees Fahrenheit and 220 degrees Fahrenheit. If the coolant temperature consistently runs too hot, it can lead to issues like overheating, warped cylinder heads, or even a blown head gasket. With an OBD2 scanner, you'll be able to spot abnormal temperature spikes and address them early by checking for issues like low coolant levels, a failing water pump, or a malfunctioning thermostat. Setting up alerts is another useful feature. Many OBD apps allow you to configure so if your coolant temperature crosses a certain, you'll get an instant